The rain hammered down like God's own judgment, turning the cracked driveway of the old Victorian into a shallow river that swallowed Jonathan's boots whole. He pounded on the door for the third time, his fist leaving muddy smears on the peeling white paint. But the only answer was the distant rumble of thunder and the faint glow of the living room lamp flickering like a dying heartbeat inside. "Mom? That's me, Jonathan." "Open up, please," he shouted, his voice cracking against the storm. But the lock clicked with finality, and through the rain-streaked window, he saw his mother's silhouette turn away, her shoulders rigid as the deadbolt sealed him out forever. Jonathan staggered back, the cold metal key to his childhood home, still dangling from his keychain after all these years, now a mocking weight in his pocket. He'd driven 18 hours straight from San Francisco, chasing ghosts and a half-baked hope that time had softened the edges of their hatred. But here he was, 32 years old and locked out like a stray dog who'd forgotten his place. The porch light buzzed on overhead, illuminating the welcome home mat that now felt like a cruel punchline. And in that moment, as lightning split the sky, Jonathan realized the family he'd buried in his dreams had buried him right back, 6 feet under the Bible verses and unspoken shame. He slumped against the porch railing, the rain mixing with the hot sting of tears he hadn't shed since the day they shipped him off to find himself in the city. The house loomed like a tombstone, its gables sharp against the bruised clouds. And Jonathan wondered if this was what coming home felt like. Not arms open wide, but a door slammed shut on the boy who dared to love another man. The storm showed no mercy as Jonathan fumbled for his phone. Its screen cracked from the long drive, the battery hovering at a pitiful 12%. He scrolled through contacts that had gone cold years ago, his sister Emily's number, uncalled since her wedding invite came with a PS that read, "Don't come if you're still." You know. He hit dial anyway, the ringtone slicing through the downpour like a lifeline he didn't deserve. It went to voicemail after 4 rings, her cheerful greeting a relic from a time when they built forts in the backyard and shared secrets under the covers. It's John. I'm outside. They won't let me in. Please. I just need to talk." He ended the call, his voice a raw whisper swallowed by the wind. Huddled under the sagging awning, Jonathan's mind reeled back to the last time he'd stood on this porch, not as a prodigal son, but as a terrified 22-year-old, backpack slung over one shoulder, his father's ultimatum still burning in his ears: "You're either straight or you're gone. We won't harbor sin under this roof." That night, he'd confessed over dinner, the words tumbling out after months of choking on them, his boyfriend Alex's face flashing in his mind like a forbidden prayer. The table had gone silent, forks clattering against plates, and his mother's eyes, those soft blue pools that once sang him lullabies, had hardened into chips of ice. "The Lord tests us, Jonathan," she'd whispered, but it was his father who stood, chair scraping like nails on a chalkboard, and pointed to the door. "Get out before you corrupt us all." A decade later, Jonathan had built a life in the fog-shrouded hills of San Francisco, a graphic design gig that paid the rent on a shoebox apartment overlooking the bay, a string of lovers who came and went like seasons, and a quiet pride in the rainbow flag he hung from his balcony each June. But success tasted like ash without roots, and when his father's heart attack hit the news via a terse email from Emily, "Dad's stable, but weak. Come if you can," Jonathan had packed the car without a second thought. He told himself it was for closure, for the man who'd taught him to fish on lazy summer Sundays. But deep down, he craved absolution, A hug that said, "We were wrong." The porch creaked under footsteps, and Jonathan's heart lurched. The door cracked open, not wide, but just enough for Emily to slip out. Her blonde bob plastered to her forehead from the humidity. Arms crossed over a cardigan that screamed PTA meetings and minivans. She was 35 now. Lines of motherhood etching her face. But her green eyes, mirror images of his, held the same flicker of guilt he'd seen in the rearview mirror that long-ago night. "John," she breathed, glancing over her shoulder like a conspirator. "You can't be here." "Not like this." "Like what? Soaked to the bone? Or gay as the day I left?" The bitterness slipped out, sharper than he intended, and she flinched. "It's not that simple. Dad's. He's not ready." "The doctor says stress could," she cut off, biting her lip, the rain drumming a frantic rhythm on the tin roof above them. Jonathan stepped closer, close enough to smell the faint lavender of her soap, the same one Mom used. "I drove all night. I left my life behind because blood's thicker than. Whatever this is. Just let me in." 5 minutes. Her gaze darted to the window, where shadows shifted, thumbs, probably, wringing her hands in that prayer shawl. "They changed the locks last year. After you sent that Christmas card with him." She meant Alex. Or maybe the new guy, Brian, whose photo Jonathan had stupidly included. The two of them grinning under the Golden Gate. Dad saw it and it broke him all over again. The confession landed like a slap, and Jonathan laughed, a hollow, broken sound that echoed off the wet bricks. "Broke him? What about me? You think I haven't spent years piecing myself back together?" He reached for her arm, but she pulled away, the distance between them widening like a chasm. "Go to the motel on Route 9. The Starlight. I'll come tomorrow. Okay? After church." Her voice was a plea, eyes pleading for understanding he couldn't muster. "Fine," he muttered, turning away before the tears betrayed him. But tomorrow better not be another lie. Eminencia. As she vanished inside, the door clicking shut with a finality that echoed his exile, Jonathan trudged to his beat-up Subaru, the engine coughing to life like an old friend reluctant to wake. The Starlight Motel squatted off the highway like a forgotten relic. Neon sign buzzing vacancy in sputtering pink. He checked in under the fluorescent glare of the lobby. The clerk, a grizzled man with a name tag reading, Hank, eyeing him with the wariness reserved for drifters. "Room 12. Cash or card?" Hank grunted, sliding a key across the scarred formica. "Card," Jonathan said, handing it over, his fingers numb from the cold. As he signed, Hank's radio crackled with a country tune. Something about lost highways and second chances. And Jonathan wondered if the universe was mocking him or offering a truce. Room 12 smelled of stale smoke and regret. The bed sagging under a threadbare quilt. The TV bolted to the wall flickering with infomercials for miracle cures. Jonathan stripped off his wet clothes, the mirror in the bathroom reflecting a stranger, leaner than he remembered. The tattoo on his collarbone, a small rainbow infinity loop, fading from too many San Francisco summers. He showered hot as he could stand it, steam fogging the glass, and let the water wash away the grime of the road. But not the ache in his chest. Wrapped in a towel that barely reached his thighs, he collapsed onto the bed, scrolling through old photos, him and Alex at Pride. Arms tangled in confetti rain, Ryan's smile. Soft and knowing. before the fights wore them thin. Home was supposed to fix this void, but all it had done was carve it deeper. Sleep came fitful, dreams tangled with porch lights and locked doors, until a knock jolted him awake at dawn. Blinking against the gray light filtering through thin curtains, Jonathan yanked on jeans and a hoodie, peering through the peephole. Not Emily, come in. Broad-shouldered, with tousled auburn hair and a toolbox slung over one shoulder. He opened the door a crack. Yeah, plumbing check. Hank said the pipes in 12 been actin' up. The guy's voice was low, laced with that slow southern drawl that marked every native of Willow Creek, Tennessee. Up close, he was mid-30s, maybe, with freckles dusting his nose and green eyes that crinkled at the corners, like he'd seen too many sunrises and not enough smiles. Jonathan rubbed sleep from his eyes. Pipes seem fine to me. The man, his name tag read Cale, grinned. Sheepish. Hank's got a sixth sense for leaks. Mind if I take a look anyway? On the house. What the hell? Jonathan thought, stepping aside. Knock yourself out. Caleb moved with easy grace, kneeling by the sink, his flannel shirt stretching across shoulders honed from manual labor. As he twisted the faucet, water gurgled clear, and he chuckled. False alarm. Guess Hank just likes sending me on fool's errands. Or scouting for strays, Jonathan quipped, leaning against the door frame, arms crossed to hide the tremor in his hands. Caleb straightened, wiping his palms on his jeans, his gaze lingering a beat too long. You new in town? Don't recall seeing you around. Old ghost? Actually. Jonathan Hale. Back from the dead. The words hung heavy, and Caleb's brow furrowed, recognition dawning. Hale? As in the Hales on Maple Street? I went to high school with your sister. Caleb Reeves. We dissected frogs in bio together. Good. She hated that. Jonathan's laugh was genuine this time. A spark in the gloom. Em still screams at worms. Last I checked. They talk then? Easy as breathing, Caleb's life as the town handyman. Fixing what broke in a place that resisted change, Jonathan's sanitized version of San Francisco. Art shows and coffee runs. Skipping the lonely nights. Caleb's eyes held no judgment. Just a quiet curiosity that made Jonathan's skin hum. You look like you could use a real breakfast, Caleb said finally, slinging his toolbox. Diner down the road does biscuits and gravy that'd make your mama jealous, if she cooks like mine did. The offer dangled, innocent but electric, and Jonathan hesitated only a second. Lead the way. The rain had eased to a drizzle as they slid into Caleb's truck. An old Ford with duct-taped seats and a dashboard Virgin Mary glowing faintly. Willow Creek unspooled around them, clapboard houses with porches full of rockers. The Baptist church steeple piercing the mist like a finger pointed at heaven. The diner base was a time capsule, red vinyl booths, jukebox crooning Patsy Cline, the air thick with bacon grease and gossip. They claimed a corner booth, plates steaming with eggs and hash browns, and Caleb dove in with the enthusiasm of a man who'd skipped supper. So, what brings the prodigal back? Family reunion or just missin' the humidity? Jonathan forked a bite, the salt burning his tongue. Dad's sick. I don't know. Play the good son. Caleb nodded, slow, like he was piecing together the town's whispers. Heard about the heart thing. Tough break. Your folks? They're good people. Church folk. The word church landed like gravel. And Jonathan's fork paused. Good people who lock their gay son out in the rain. The booth went still. Caleb's coffee cup halfway to his lips. Jesus. John. I'm sorry. That ain't right. Jonathan shrugged. The ache flaring fresh. It's their house. Their rules. Always has been. Not if it's your blood, Caleb said fiercely, setting his cup down. You deserve better than that porch. Their eyes met, and something shifted, warm, unspoken, like the first crack in a frozen lake. Caleb's hand brushed Jonathan's on the table. Accidental but lingering, calluses rough against smooth skin. If you need a place to crash till things blow over, my couch is open. No strings. Don't go back to that motel. Feels like giving up. Jonathan's throat tightened. The offer a bomb he hadn't known he craved. But you barely know me. Caleb's smile was crooked, vulnerable. 'Cause I know what it's like to feel locked out. Grew up with a dad who preached fire and brimstone, then wondered why his boy turned out. Complicated. The word hung, loaded, and Jonathan's pulse quickened. Complicated how? Caleb glanced at the window. Rain tracing rivulets like tears. Let's just say I ain't never brought a girl home to Sunday supper. And the town's got its ways of making you pay for it. In that diner booth, over cooling coffee, two outcasts found a fragile bridge, tentative, terrifying, but real. Jonathan nodded, the decision settling like peace. Couch sounds better than ghosts. As they drove to Caleb's place, a modest bungalow on the edge of town. Wildflowers choking the yard, Jonathan felt the first thaw in his chest. But back at the Hale house, Emily stared at her phone. The voicemail a siren call she couldn't answer. While inside, her parents prayed for a miracle that would erase the son they'd lost. Caleb's bungalow was a far cry from the sterile perfection of Jonathan's San Francisco loft. Exposed brick walls patched with drywall, a kitchen table scarred from God knows, and bookshelves sagging under paperbacks with dog-eared spines. But it breathed life, the scent of fresh basil from a windowsill pot, a record player humming Johnny Cash in the corner, and a couch piled with quilts that smelled of laundry soap and faint pine. Mi casa es su casa, Caleb said, tossing Jonathan a spare key with a wink. Though the casa's a mess. Ignore the dishes. Jonathan dropped his duffel by the door, the weight of it lighter than it had been in days. Beats the motel's vibe. Thanks. Seriously. Don't mention it. Beer. Caleb pulled 2 bottles from the fridge. Condensation beating like sweat. And they clinked necks on the porch steps, watching fireflies wink in the gathering dusk. The air hummed with crickets, a symphony Jonathan had forgotten in the city's ceaseless roar. Tell me about complicated, Jonathan said after a swallow, the bitterness cutting through the chill. Caleb leaned back, boots scuffing the wood. High school me was the golden boy, quarterback. Church youth group president. But junior year, I kissed Tommy Ellis behind the bleachers after prom. He tasted like cheap whiskey and regret. Freaked me out so bad I dated every cheerleader in sight after that. Self-deprecating, but his eyes shadowed. Dad found my stash of magazines, the wrong kind. Beat the hell out of me. Then dragged me to conversion camp up in Knoxville. 3 weeks of praying the gay away. Came back straight as they come. Or so I told myself. Jonathan's stomach twisted, echoes of his own exile ringing in the words. Did it work? Hell no. Just buried it deeper. Dated Sarah from the diner for 5 years. Nice girl. Thought she'd fix me. But when she wanted kids, Caleb trailed off, staring at the bottle label peeling under his thumb. I bolted. Been solo since. Fixin', sinks and dodgin' questions. The vulnerability cracked something in Jonathan. A floodgate he'd bolted shut long ago. My coming out was a bloodbath. Dad quoted Leviticus like it was a death sentence. Mom cried for weeks, like I died. Em tried to mediate, but she picked sides eventually, family first. He took a long pull, the beer sour on his tongue. Lived with Alex for 4 years after. He was my anchor, taught me to love without apology. But he got tired of my baggage, the calls I wouldn't take home. We ended messy. Caleb's gaze softened, hand resting on Jonathan's knee, a touch so casual it burned. Sounds like you carried the weight alone too long. Maybe. Jonathan covered Caleb's hand with his own, the warmth seeping bone deep. What about now? You ever let anyone in? Caleb's thumb traced a circle on Jonathan's jeans. Electric. Now, I'm looking at the first guy in years who doesn't make me want to run. He leaned in, breath mingling, and Jonathan met him halfway, the kiss tentative at first, lips brushing like a question, then deepening with the hunger of men starved for grace. Caleb tasted like hops and honesty, hands framing Jonathan's face as if he were something sacred. They broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed, the world narrowing to the porch and the pulse thundering in their ears. Stay, Caleb murmured. Not just tonight, Jonathan nodded, words failing, and they stumbled inside, shedding clothes like old skins. The couch became their altar, bodies tangling in a dance of rediscovery. Caleb's calloused palms mapping scars Jonathan had hidden. Whispers of beautiful and mine chasing away the ghosts. It wasn't just sex, it was reclamation. 2 souls forging a haven from the ruins. Dawn painted the room gold when Jonathan woke to coffee brewing, Caleb humming in the kitchen, shirtless and rumpled, a sight that twisted Jonathan's heart with something perilously close to hope. They ate toast at the table, knees bumping, small talk weaving with loaded silences. Church today, Caleb said, buttering his slice. You goin'? Jonathan snorted. Last place I'd show my face. Fair. But it might be there. Could be you're in. The mention of his sister soured the sweetness. Reality crashing back. Yeah. Maybe. Caleb squeezed his hand. I'll drop you at the Hales after. Moral support from the truck. Gratitude swelled. And Jonathan stole a kiss. Soft and lingering. Your trouble? Reeves. The best kind. The drive to Maple Street was quiet. Radio murmuring gospel tunes that felt less like judgment and more like a truce. Caleb idled at the curb. Engine rumbling. Text me if it goes south. I'll be your getaway car. Jonathan nodded, throat tight, and stepped out into the crisp morning air. The house looked almost welcoming in sunlight, flower beds blooming defiant against the neglect. He knocked, polite this time. No fists, and Emily answered. Her Sunday dress starched and somber, eyes widening at the sight of him dry and determined. John. Stayed somewhere. Caleb Reeves's. Old friend. He brushed past her into foyer, the scent of pot roast wafting from the kitchen like a siren's call. We need to talk. All of us. She hesitated, glancing toward the living room where Dad reclined in his lazy boy, oxygen tube snaking to his nose. Mom perched on the ottoman with her Bible open. Now's not. Now, Jonathan cut in, voice steel. He strode in, the room freezing like a stage mid-scene. Dad's face paled, eyes narrowing behind bifocals. Mom's hand flew to her cross necklace, murmuring a prayer under her breath. Jonathan, Dad rasped, voice thinned by illness but edged with old authority. We said our piece last night, and I say mine now. Jonathan stood tall, heart hammering. I'm not here to beg. I'm here because despite everything, the locks, the silence, the shame, you're still my family. And families supposed to fight for each other, not against. Mom's eyes welled, but Dad's jaw set. You chose your path. Put that lifestyle. It's poison. The Bible. Screw the Bible if it means losing your son. The shout echoed, shocking them all. Emily gasped from the doorway, hand over mouth. Dad's face reddened, a cough rattling his chest. You think this is easy? Watching you throw away salvation? We locked that door to protect what's left. Protect? Or punish? Jonathan's voice broke. Fists clenched. I loved you. All of you. And you threw me away like trash. The room spun into chaos. Mom sobbing, Emily pleading, Dad clutching his chest as alarms blared in the distance. An ambulance siren wailing closer. Paramedics burst in. Jonathan shoved aside like an intruder. And in the blur, Emily's whisper cut through, "This is your fault." He fled to the porch. Caleb struck a beacon down the street. Tires screeched as he yanked the door open, collapsing into the seat. Drive. Anywhere. Caleb didn't question. Just peeled out, hand on Jonathan's thigh as Willow Creek blurred by. They ended up at the quarry lake, hidden by pines, the water still as glass under the noon sun. Jonathan unloaded in jagged bursts, the confrontation, the ambulance, Emily's blame, while Caleb listened, arm around his shoulders. They'll come around, Caleb said finally, though doubt laced his words. Or they won't. But you got me. That's something. Jonathan turned, burying his face in Caleb's neck, the solid warmth anchoring him. It's everything. They made love by the water's edge, slow and reverent, clothes discarded on wild grass, bodies joining in a rhythm that drowned out the sirens in his head. Afterward, tangled in each other's limbs, Caleb traced the tattoo on Jonathan's collarbone. What's this mean to you? Infinity. Love without end. Jonathan smiled faintly. Kinda cheesy. Huh. Perfect. Caleb kissed it, then his mouth. And for the first time in years, Jonathan believed in forever. But peace was fleeting. That evening, Emily's text lit up his phone. Dad's stable. But he wants you gone. For good. Don't come back. The words gutted him. Betrayal sharp as a blade. Caleb found him on the porch, staring at the screen, and pulled him inside without a word. Stay anyway, he murmured, holding tight. Build something here. With me. Jonathan clung back, whispering yes into the dark. But doubt gnawed, a seed of what? wondering if love could bloom in soil this poisoned. Cross town, in the hospital room, Dad gripped Mom's hand, eyes distant. We did right, didn't we? She nodded, tears silent, but in her heart, a crack formed, the first whisper of regret. Weeks blurred into a fragile routine, Jonathan carving out space in Caleb's bungalow like a man staking claim to stolen land. Mornings started with coffee on the porch, Caleb's head on his lap as they watched the sun gild the kudzu-choked fence. Afternoons, Jonathan sketched designs on his laptop, freelance logos for local businesses, a tentative bridge to the town that had shunned him, while Caleb hammered away at jobs, returning dust-streaked and grinning with takeout from Betty's. Nights where there's alone, bodies and breaths intertwining until exhaustion claimed them, the world outside fading to irrelevance. But Willow Creek had eyes, and whispers spread like kudzu. At the feed store, Old Man Hargrove muttered about that Hale boy and the handyman ain't natural. At Betty's, Sarah shot Caleb sidelong glances over her notepad, her smile brittle as cracked china. Jonathan felt the stares like pinpricks, but Caleb's hand in his under the table, firm and unapologetic, dulled the sting. Let him talk, he'd say, voice low thunder. We ain't hidin'. One humid Tuesday, Jonathan's phone buzzed with an unknown number, Emily. His finger hovered, then answered. Ing. John. Her voice was hushed, like a confessional. Can we meet? The park by the mill. Please. Suspicion warred with longing. But he agreed, texting Caleb a heads-up before heading out in the Subaru. The park was a relic, rusted swings creaking in the breeze. The old mills will frozen midturn by the river. Emily waited on a bench, sundress fluttering, a thermos of what smelled like sweet tea between her sneakers. You came, she said, standing, arms opening then faltering. They settled awkwardly, the bench groaning under them. Figured you earned a shot. Jonathan eyed her, the lines around her eyes deeper, worry etching her like frost. How's Dad? Home now. Grumpy as ever. She reported, hands shaking. John, what happened that day? It wasn't your fault. The doctor said the stress triggered it, but Dad's blood pressure was high anyway. Doesn't change the lock. Or the gone for good. Bitterness edged his words, but softer now, worn by time. Emily winced, twisting her ring, a simple gold band from a marriage Jonathan had never witnessed. He's scared of dying without making peace. And you? Showing the reminding him of what he can't control. She met his eyes, pleading. Mom's breakin'. John. She prays all night, staring at your baby pictures. The image pierced him. Frail hands clutching faded Polaroids. The boy in them innocent and whole. Why now? After the card? The silence. Because Caleb's truck in your driveway ain't exactly subtle. She half smiled. Tentative. Town talk reached us. I saw you two at the diner. Looked happy. Real happy. Jonathan's cheeks warmed. A flush of defensiveness. We are. He's home. Eminencia. In a way this town never was. Her smile faded, replaced by a shadow. That's why I need to tell you something. Before it blows up. She leaned in, voice dropping. Dad didn't just change the locks. rewrote the will. Everything, the house, the land, goes to me now. Unless you renounce it all. Sign a paper saying you're reformed, go to counseling. The works. The world tilted. Betrayal of vice around his ribs. He'd disown me on paper? After everything? It's his pride. John thinks it's set on your soul. Tears brimmed her eyes. I fought him on it. But he won't budge. Rage boiled. Hot and righteous. And you? You sign off on this? No. Good. I'm trying to fix it. Talk to the lawyer. Got a copy of the old will hidden. But if Dad finds out. She trailed off. Fear etching her face. Jonathan stood. The thermos tipping. Tea spilling like blood on the dirt. Fix it? Or cover for him again? He stormed to the car. Engine roaring to life. Leaving Emily calling after him. Her figure shrinking in the rear view. Caleb was home early. Grease streaked from a tractor repair. But the fury in Jonathan's eyes stopped him cold. What happened? Over beers on the couch? Jonathan spilled it, the will. The ultimatum. Emily's half measures. Caleb's face darkened. Jaw grinding. That's bullshit. Your birthright. Dangled like a carrot. We fight this. How? Lawyer up in a town that thinks we're abominations. Jonathan paced. Hands raking his hair. With truth. Caleb pulled him close. Fierce. You're the hail who never broke. Show him that. The idea simmered through dinner, spaghetti from a jar. Eaten cross-legged on the floor, and by nightfall, Jonathan drafted an email to the family lawyer. See Emily. A polite but unyielding demand for the original will. Citing inheritance laws he'd Googled in a frenzy. No more games, he typed. Fingers flying. I'm Jonathan Hale. Son and heir. And I won't sign away my name for your salvation. Sleep evaded him. Caleb snores a steady anchor beside him. Until his phone lit up at 2 a.m., Dad's number. Heart slamming. He answered. Hello. Jonathan. The voice was gravel. Labored. Your sister's a fool. Showing you that paper. But you're right. It's time. Time for what? Suspicion laced every syllable. To talk. Man to man. Come tomorrow. No locks this time. The line went dead. Leaving Jonathan staring at the ceiling. Caleb stirring to pull him back down. What now? Armageddon? Maybe. Jonathan laughed shakily. Or redemption. Dawn brought resolve. Caleb drove him again. This time waiting openly in the driveway. A silent sentinel. The door opened before Jonathan knocked. Eyes red-rimmed. Pulling him into a hug that smelled of lavender and loss. Oh. Baby, she whispered. Clutching like he'd vanish. Dad waited in the living room. Thinner in his armchair. But his handshake was firm. Eyes meeting Jonathan's without flinching. Sit. We got whiskey, medicinal. Emily hovered. Thermos refilled. As Dad poured measures into jelly jars. I was wrong, he started. Voice rough. Locking you out. The will. All of it. Pride's a sin worse than any other. And it's eaten me alive. Jonathan sipped. The burn steadying him. Why now? The heart scare. Partly. But seeing you with that Reeves boy, strong, unashamed, it hit me. I raised a man, not a ghost. And I damn near killed him for being honest. Tears tracked his weathered cheeks. Unashamed. Forgive me, son. If you can. The room held its breath. Mom's hand on Jonathan's knee. Emily nodding encouragement. He thought of porches and rain. Of Caleb's touch like sunlight. It's a start. But forgiveness ain't a signature. It's time. They talked then, hours bleeding into afternoon, unpacking the rot, Dad's own buried doubts from seminary days. Mom's silent complicity born of fear. Emily's guilt-fueled enabling. Laughter pierced the tears. Stories of Little League and Christmas Eves resurfacing like buried treasure. By dusk, Dad slid a folder across the coffee table, the original will. Altered. Burn the new one if you want. This house is yours too. Hope flickered. Fragile but fierce. Jonathan texted Caleb, "It's good. Come in?" Caleb entered like he belonged, shaking Dad's hand with quiet respect. Mom fussing over pie she'd baked, just in case. Dinner was tentative, pot roast and awkward silences broken by Caleb's easy jokes. Emily's kids' stories drawing laughs. For the first time, the table felt full. Not fractured. But as plates cleared, Dad pulled Jonathan aside in the kitchen. One thing. The town's watchin'. And I need time. To tell folks we're good. Don't want blowback on you too. Understood. Jonathan clapped his shoulder. The gesture bridging years. Pace yourself, old man, said. Under stars pricking the velvet sky. Caleb waited by the truck. How'd it go? Miracle in progress. Jonathan kissed him deep. Grateful. Couldn't have without you. Caleb grinned, pulling him close. Partners in crime. Remember, they drove home hand in hand. The bungalow waiting like a promise. But in the shadows of Maple Street, Emily lingered on the porch, phone in hand. A text half-typed to the lawyer, "Tell Mr. Hale the new will stands. For the family's sake." Her finger hovered over send, torn between blood and the brother she'd just reclaimed. The betrayal brewed. Unseen. A storm on the horizon. Summer thickened Willow Creek into a haze of cicadas and cut grass. Jonathan and Caleb's life weaving deeper into the town's reluctant fabric. Jonathan landed a contract redesigning the Chamber of Commerce website. Ironic? Given the side eyes from the mayor's wife at meetings, but it paid steady. And Caleb's business boomed with referrals. The two of them stealing lunches in the truck bed. Feet tangled. Dreaming aloud about expanding. A joint workshop? Maybe. Blending Jonathan's art with Caleb's craft. The Hales thawed unevenly. Sunday dinners became ritual, Mom's fried chicken crisp as memory. Dad's stories loosening with each whiskey. Emily's kids climbing Jonathan like a jungle gym. Their giggles a salve. Uncle John, little Mia squealed, tugging his ear. And he'd scoop her up, spinning until dizziness blurred the past. Dad even asked about Caleb once. Gruff over pie, boy seems solid. Treats you right? Better than right, Jonathan replied. Caleb's boot nudging his under the table. Good. Deserve that. Dad's nod was gruff benediction. And Jonathan clung to it like scripture. But fissures cracked beneath the surface. Emily grew distant. Text Kurt. Excuses piling for skipped coffees. Jonathan chalked it to motherhood, her husband's long hauls as a trucker leaving her frayed, but uneased nod. A whisper in quiet moments. Caleb noticed too. Over breakfast one muggy August morning. Your sis is dodgin'. Something up? Probably just busy. Jonathan scrolled emails, avoiding his eyes. Family's messy. You know. Caleb set his mug down. Serious. Messy don't mean blind. Talk to her. The advice lingered, prodding until Jonathan texted, lunch? Betty's. No excuses. She arrived late. Shadows under her eyes. Sliding into the booth with a forced smile. Hey. Stranger. Feels like it. Jonathan pushed a menu her way. Studying her. Everything okay? You've been ghosting. She fidgeted, tracing the laminate cracks. Just. So. Kids' school startin'. Mark's route's gettin' longer. The pause. And Dad's been a skin about the will again. Pushin'. Jonathan's fork paused midair. Eggs congealing. Pushing what? We settled that. He says he changed his mind. After seeing you two so public. At the fair last week, holding hands by the Ferris wheel. Her voice cracked. Apologetic. Towns riled. Petitions circlin'. Folks want the chamber to drop your contract. Dad stain heat at church. Rage simmered. But Jonathan leashed it. So he's backpedaling? After the folder? The talks. Emily's eyes darted. Guilt flashing. He burned the new one. Swore it. But if pressure mounts. The server interrupted with refills. The clatter a mercy. But when she left, Jonathan leaned in. Level with me. Is there another copy? Silence stretched. Her fingers twisting her napkin to shreds. Maybe. For protection. In case you ever. Hurt us again. Hurt you. The words exploded. Heads turning in the diner. I came back broken. And you locked me out. Now you're hoarding leverage like it's love. Tears spilled. Hot and unbidden. I'm scared. Okay? Of losing the house. Dad's legacy. You're gone. Living free. What if you sell it all? Leave us with nothing? The accusation landed like shrapnel. Slicing open old wounds. Legacy? This is about control. Not family. You're betraying me. Eminencia. All of us. She sobbed then. Napkin to mouth. And fled the booth. Leaving Jonathan with a check and a chasm. He paid in cash. Storming to the truck. Where Caleb waited. Summoned by a frantic text. Drive, was all he said. And Caleb did? To the quarry again. The lake a mirror for his turmoil. They sat on the hood. Feet dangling. Caleb's arm a steady weight. She what? Has a backup will. Dad's protection policy. Jonathan hurled a pebble into the water. Ripples spreading like accusations. I thought we were healing. But it's all conditional. One queer kiss in public. And poof, disinherited. Caleb pulled him close. Chin on his shoulder. Then we expose it. What? Whatever. Can't let him dangle this sword. No. Jonathan turned. Eyes fierce. I won't tear the family apart in some tabloid circus. Willow Creek'd eat us alive. So what? Back to Frisco? Leave the ghosts. The idea tempted. A siren song of escape. But Jonathan shook his head. No. We fight smart. Confront them. All in. Caleb nodded. Resolute. Together. The Hale house that evening thrummed with tension, the air thick as pre-storm hush. Jonathan and Caleb arrived arm in arm. A united front. Emily let them in. Face blotchy. The kids banished to the backyard. Mom fluttered, sensing the storm, while Dad eyed them warily from his chair. We know about the backup, Will, Jonathan started, voice even. Emily confessed, Dad's face drained, eyes flicking to his daughter. Ruthie. What? It was for us. Emily burst, standing. You pushed me, Dad said, to keep options open. And John, you're changing everything, holding the hands at the fair. Like it's Nashville. Not here. The church called us sinners by association. Mom gasped. Hand to heart. Emily Jane. It's true. Tears streamed. I love you. John. But this world's closing in. Petitions? Whispers. Mark's boss asked if we're one of them. I can't lose my home. Dad rose shakily. Oxygen hissing. Enough. This is my doing. I told her to hold it, thinking it'd force you straight or gone clean. His eyes met Jonathan's. But I was wrong. Finn. Burn it tonight? Eminencia. In the sink. She hesitated. The room a powder keg. Then nodded, fleeing to the office. Silence descended, broken only by the backyard laughter, innocent, oblivious. Caleb squeezed Jonathan's hand, a lifeline. When Emily returned, ashes swirling in a coffee mug, relief washed tentative. It's done, she whispered. I'm sorry. For all of it. Jonathan pulled her into a hug, fierce and forgiving. We rebuild. No secrets. The family circled then, arms linking. Prayers murmured not for change, but acceptance. Dad clasped Caleb's shoulder. Welcome. Son. Officially. Caleb grinned. Teary. On it. Sir. Fall crept in with crimson leaves and harvest fairs. Jonathan and Caleb's booth a hit, custom signs blending Caleb's woodwork with Jonathan's graphics. The town sampling their wares with cautious smiles. Stares lingered, but softened. Betty's served them pie on the house. Sarah's nod a quiet truce. One crisp November evening, as snow dusted the bungalow roof, Jonathan knelt by the Christmas tree they'd hauled in, lopsided, fragrant, sliding a box across the floor. Open it, Caleb did, revealing a carved keychain, 2 infinity loops intertwined. Engraved home. John, marry me. Jonathan's voice trembled. Ring glinting in his palm, a simple band, silver and true. Caleb's yes was a whoop, tackling him to the rug in a tangle of lights and laughter. They called the Hales at dawn. Dad's gruff, about to masking tears. Mom planning a reception before coffee cooled. Emily cooing over FaceTime with the kids. The wedding was small, backyard of the Hale house. Spring blooms rioting. Town folk mingling with San Francisco friends flown in. Vows exchanged under the old oak. Jonathan's eyes locked on Caleb's. You unlocked me when the world locked me out. Caleb's kiss sealed it. Cheers rising like grace. Not perfect, the town still whispered. Dad's health a shadow, but human. Woven from forgiveness and fire. Years later, Jonathan would stand on that porch, key in hand, Caleb beside him, watching grandkids chase fireflies. The door always opened wide now. A testament, love didn't conquer all, but it cracked the locks, letting light flood in.